How's everyone doing? How are my kiddos? How's my class family? I'm just gonna keep reading Winn Dixie. Sound good? While I'm dressed. You might actually get a video this week with me in my pajamas. We'll see. But for now, I'm dressed. And I figure before I go get changed and relax, I'll read chapters 15, 16, and maybe even 17 because they're short chapters. All right? Does that sound good? We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. We're like halfway through the story, which seems kind of silly. That's what happens when you're reading a really good book. It feels like it shouldn't be halfway over, that it's just getting going, and you don't like it when a story ends. And that's why it's so cool when you read a chapter book that is part of a series, because then you don't have to say goodbye to the characters. You can kind of grow with them and you can change with them. Winn Dixie doesn't have a part 2, sadly. So when the book is over, the book is over. So you hear background noise. It's not Winn Dixie that you hear. It's my 4 dogs. They're with me right now, which is cool. I think that I'll show you what they're doing right now before I start my reading. And I can't promise you that they won't bark. But here we go. You ready? And there's Jingle and Chloe. And there's Liberty Bell and Maggie May. Huh. Chloe Bell. Hi. Good girl. Hi, Jingle Bell. Hey, you. Liberty. Libs. Hi, Libby. Oh, no, don't you bark. No balls are over there. She likes to bark at certain places, and she tries to tell me, like, my ball's there. She's usually right, but I don't want to go dig in right now, so she can just wait. Okay. So, sorry, I'm going to put my hair back up, and then we'll read. Chloe, go lay down like a good girl. You're a good girl. No, go lay down. All right, so here we go, my friends. Chapter 15. So I'll actually go back a little bit just in case it's been a couple of days or a little while, whenever it is that you're watching this video. And when we left off on chapter 14, Gloria dumped. So Opal decided to tell Gloria how Otis, no, Chloe, lay down. How Otis had been arrested and how he was a criminal. And she asked Gloria if she should be afraid of him. And Gloria, her way of talking to Opal about it was to bring her out back and to show her her mistake tree with all of those bottles that Gloria put up as a reminder of the mistakes that she had made. It seems like Gloria may have, back in the day, drank a lot of alcohol because they were whiskey and beer and wine bottles. And just like Opal's mama. And so Gloria was talking about that. And she even said, even if she hadn't drank, some of those mistakes would have also happened, right? Because we're human. We make a million mistakes a day, huh? That's how we learn, right? So that's where we left off. But let me just read quickly. I'm just going to summarize for our own brains. And I'm going to go back a little bit. So let's see. Did the whiskey and beer and wine, did they make you do the bad things that are ghosts now? Some of them, said Gloria Dump. Some of them I would have done anyway, like with alcohol or without, before I learned. Learned what? Learned what is the most important thing. What's that? I asked her. It's different for everyone, she said. You find out on your own. But in the meantime, you got to remember, you can't always judge people by the things they done. You got to judge them by what they're doing now. You judge Otis by the pretty music he plays and how kind he is to them animals, because that's all you know about him right now. All right? Yes, ma'am, I said. And them Dewberry boys, you try not to judge them too harsh either, all right? All right, I said. All right then, said Gloria Dump, and she turned and started walking away. Winn Dixie nudged me with his wet nose and wagged his tail. When he saw I wasn't going, he trotted after Gloria. I stayed where I was and I studied the tree. I wondered if my mama, wherever she was, had a tree full of bottles. And I wondered if I was a ghost to her, the same way she sometimes seemed like a ghost to me. Okay, so now we're going on to chapter 15, page 98. Okay, are you there? All right. So I'm wondering if any more characters are going to show up in the story. And I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, it seems like there's like a character introduced and then a few chapters on that character. So I'm just wondering if the story is going to go back to the characters we already know, or if the story is going to go on. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, you ready? All right, so the Herman W. Block Memorial Library's air conditioning didn't work very good, and there was only one fan. And from the minute me and Winn Dixie got in the library, he hogged it all. Who would hog the fan in our class family? Who used a fan until it broke, even in the wintertime? Who's always hot? I have a connection to Winn Dixie. So he hogged it all. He lay right in front of it and he wagged his tail and he let it blow his fur all around. Some of his fur was pretty loose and it blew right off of him like a dandelion puff. I worried about him hogging the fan, and I worried about the fan blowing him bald. But Miss Franny said not to worry about either thing, that Winn Dixie could hog the fan. Winn Dixie could hog the fan. They're very good listeners, just like you boys and girls. She said, don't worry about it. Winn Dixie could hog the fan if he wanted, and she had never in her life seen a dog made bald by a fan. Sometimes when Miss Franny was telling a story, she would have a fit. They were small fits, and they didn't last long. But what happened was she would forget what she was saying. She would just stop and she would shake like a leaf. And then what happened? Winn Dixie would get up from the fan and sit right at Miss Franny Block's side. Come here, Maggie May. Come here. Come here. Oh, come here. It's okay. Come here. Okay. Hi. You want to read with me? Want to help me read? Let's read. Okay. Sit right. She would shake like a leaf. And when that happened, Winn Dixie would get up from the fan and sit right at Miss Franny Block's side. He would sit up tall, protecting her, with his ears standing up straight on his head like soldiers. And when Miss Franny stopped shaking and started talking again, Winn Dixie would lick her hand and lie back down in front of the fan. Isn't that right? Whenever Miss Franny had one of her fits, it reminded me of Winn Dixie in a thunderstorm. There were a lot of thunderstorms that summer. You trying to read the book? And I got real good at holding on to Winn Dixie whenever they came. I held on to him, and I comforted him, and I whispered to him, and I rocked him just the same way he tried. Oh, thank you for the kisses. Just the same way he tried to comfort Miss Franny when she had her fits. Only I held on to Winn Dixie for another reason, too. I held on to him tight so he wouldn't run away. Now, boys and girls, it's funny because earlier on in the chapters when the preacher said, oh, we have to make sure that Winn Dixie doesn't run and get lost, and now it's come up again. Because it's come up again, it kind of makes me like predict that that's something that could happen, because every good story has like problems and solutions, right? And so it's just a thing where I'm like, oh, the preacher mentioned not to let Winn Dixie get away, and now she mentioned it again, that she held on to him tight so that he wouldn't run away. So I'm kind of like feeling like they're planting that seed of him running away. All right, it all made me think about Gloria Dump. I wondered who comforted her when she heard those bottles knocking together, those ghosts chattering about the things she had done wrong. I wanted to comfort Gloria Dump. And I decided that the best way to do that would be to read her a book. Read it to her loud enough to keep those ghosts away. And so I asked Miss Franny, I said, Miss Franny, I've got a grown-up friend whose eyes are going on her, and I would like to read her a book out loud. Do you have any suggestions? Suggestions? Miss Franny said, yes, ma'am, I have suggestions. Of course I have suggestions. How about Gone with the Wind? What's that about? I asked her. Why, said Miss Franny, it's a wonderful story about the Civil War. The Civil War? I said. Do not tell me you have never heard of the Civil War. Miss Franny Block looked like she was going to faint. She waved her hands in front of her face. I know about the Civil War, I told her. Do you believe her? I don't think she's heard of the Civil War, but that's okay, right? I know about the Civil War, I told her. That was the war between the South and the North over slavery. Slavery, yes, said Miss Franny. It also is about states' rights and money. It was a terrible war. My great-grandfather fought in that war. He was just a boy. Your great-grandfather? Yes, ma'am. Litmus W. Block. Now there's a story. Winn Dixie yawned real big and lay down on his side with a thump and a sigh. I swear he knew that phrase, now there's a story. And he knew it meant we weren't going anywhere real soon. Go ahead and tell it to me, Miss Franny, I said. And I sat down and crossed my legs next to Winn Dixie. I pushed him and I tried to get him to share the fan, but he pretended he was asleep and he wouldn't move. I was all settled in and ready for a good story when the door banged and pinched-faced Amanda Wilkinson came in. Winn Dixie sat up and stared at her. He tried out a smile on her, but she didn't smile back, and so he laid back down. I'm ready for another book, Amanda said, slamming her book down on Miss Franny's desk. Well, said Miss Franny, maybe you wouldn't mind waiting. I'm telling India Opal a story about my great-grandfather. You are, of course, more than welcome to listen. It'll be just 1 minute. Amanda sighed, a real dramatic sigh, and stared past me. She pretended like she wasn't interested, but she was, I could tell. Come sit on over here, said Miss Franny. I'll stand, thank you. All right, suit yourself, said Miss Franny. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, Litmus W. Block.